Hey everyone, welcome back to 27 Laurie Lane. And we brought a guest with us today to talk about the M word. I know we're not supposed to say the M word.
I say it all the time.
Do you?
Okay.
Okay.
Some people are afraid to say it. So yeah, mold.
M.O.L.D.
Here's the good news. It's no longer a 4-letter word. Right? Because we make it nice and easy to take care of. So.
There we go. I love that. So this is Chris Cutter from Green Home Solutions, someone I've worked with quite a bit. And we brought him here to Laurie Lane because at Laurie Lane, as you heard in some previous videos, we had some water issues. We had water coming down when we took the roof off, which we knew was a possible issue. And we also found some remnant water issues that have been going on for years. And when you have water, you have mold.
Yeah,
So tell us, what causes mold in general?
Yeah, so in most cases, it's one of two things. It's either an ongoing moisture issue, like a slowly that nobody knew about for a long time, or sometimes it's an acute issue, like you had a tree come through your roof.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's as simple as humidity in a basement, so not running a dehumidifier. So I get a lot of phone calls all the time. People say to me, you know, Chris, I have a funny smell in the basement. Do you think I have mold? And I'll say, my first question is, do you run a dehumidifier?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then the answer is yes. You pretty much always have mold without a dehumidifier.
Absolutely. My grandmother actually has a condo down in Florida, and the AC stopped working, and it just filled up with mold.
Instant. Yeah.
So we actually have a humidity detector in there now.
Smart
to keep
yeah,
track
with
of
all
it.
the new apps and stuff. It's great. Especially, I had a conversation with someone yesterday whose air conditioning went out in Florida. They didn't know.
Yep.
The condensation built up inside.
It's crazy.
So it's all cement, but it's covered in mold. I said, yep. Well, that can happen.
So when that person calls, what do you tell them to do? What's the first step?
So I'll always ask them to send me a picture if they can of the problem, so I can kind of give it an initial diagnosis. I also tell them if the part of the house that's got the mold in it is not something they need to use all the time, I try to have them stay out of that space until they come take a look at it, because some of it can be dangerous. So we want to make sure we take care of them health-wise as well.
Absolutely.
Then we just have an appointment to come out and do an inspection.
And we talk a lot about mold in attics. What causes that?
Yeah, so attics, it's usually ventilation, venting, or again, condensation for heat loss, right? So it's really about, if you think about an attic, it's really a separate part of the house. It should have the same temperature as the outdoors most of the time. So they do that through creating a lot of airflow up through soffits and out through ridge vents or through gables. If that's happening actively without issues, generally you're okay. Unless you have what we call heat loss, which is not enough insulation in an attic, so you lose money because you're not keeping the heat inside your house. You also lose money because you have to call me to fix the mold in your attic. And then finally, a lot of houses were built with bathrooms venting directly into the attics or dryer vents.
Dryer vents are another big problem.
Yeah, so typically we find, the inspector will see the venting going to the attic, and that's always a mold.
Absolutely. And you'll see it really right around the dryer vent in many cases.
Yeah.
You said, the cost to fix it. It used to be, and it's still a costly issue, but it used to be a very expensive issue. Your technology is unique, which is one of the reasons that we got to know each other. Tell us what's different about your technology.
Yeah, so a lot of the costs associated with traditional remediation, we call it old-fashioned remediation, was rip and removal, actually taking all the substrate out of the house because there was no way to actually treat the affected substrates. Whereas we use an enzyme technology that actually permeates into the substrate. So as long as you're not structurally unsound, in other words, the wall is not soft, we can treat that in place. So we save a lot of money in both demolition and removal, time and labor, but also in the rebuild. So it saves folks a lot of money and a lot of time. Usually we're in and out about a half a day versus a 3-day rebuild process.
And you're literally keeping that wall intact.
Yeah,
just treating right through it.
Yeah, so a lot of cases, like in a finished basement, especially in real estate, right? So folks will walk into a home and there's a beautiful theater and a gym downstairs, and they're really excited to buy the house, and they come around the corner and they pull away a sofa and it's black.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so they're instantly thinking we have to rip the house apart. The seller's thinking it's going to be a huge cost to fix the problem.
Yep.
The deal starts to go crazy.
Absolutely.
Right? Whereas we can come in and say, okay, that's fine, as long as it's not, there's a crack in the foundation, there's water pouring in.
Yep.
If it's just a condensation issue because of humidity for the most part, and it's not compromised, we can treat that in place, and we're done. Usually the stain is completely gone, and if it's not, you can't let it over because the mold is gone all the way through.
And I think you bring up a good point. As much as treating the mold is important, you also have to solve the problem. So if you have water issues, water coming to the basement, humidity issues through a dehumidifier, all those things will help prevent it going forward.
Correct.
Thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And as always, if you know anyone looking to treat mold or buy, sell, or invest in real estate, both of us are always glad to help.